Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Self-Published Success, a show that highlights forward-thinking authors who chose self-publishing over traditional and found success in doing so. My name is John Feldman, founder and CEO of Visionary Literary, and your host for today's show. Our guest today is Valerie Maksym. Valerie is a high-performance life coach and the author of Maksymizing Life, Turning Self-Doubt into Self-Confidence. After 30 years of unfortunate circumstances that led to her own self-doubt, she decided to make a change. With a coach by her side, she was able to turn that self-doubt into self-confidence, which has led her on her own path to a happier, healthier life. Valerie now helps others to positively transform their lives through her coaching and writing efforts. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. So tell us a little bit more. First, I want to let the listeners know that your title, Maksymizing Life, and your last name, Maksym, awesome kind of collaboration there. And the spelling is a little bit different. So anyone who's immediately going to Amazon to look for your book, so Maksymizing is spelled differently. So it is, just for any of the listeners out there, it is Maksym. Maksym.
Yes.
Good. So tell us a little bit more, Valerie Maksym, about you, how this awesome last name transitioned into this great title of yours, and kind of what led you onto your own path where you are now.
Okay. There's a lot there we could unpack. So I'm a single mom of four. My kids are all older now. So I had them young. So my youngest is 20, my oldest is 32. And I've had two failed marriages, one failed relationship. And in the course of my life, I realized, I wanted this fairy tale life. I wanted this happy life. I wanted to be married to one person, live this happily ever after, had all these dreams and aspirations, and nothing was turning out the way that I had envisioned. And so I was 44, almost 45, whenever I divorced for the second time. And I realized I needed to take a time out because one of my friends, who's also a counselor, said, you are the common denominator in all of these relationships, and that you're picking, and that you're, having the same things in. And at the time, I really didn't want to hear that, but it was truth. Sometimes truth we don't want to hear, but like they say, the truth can set you free. And so I was, at that time in my life, realized, okay, I'm going to be open to learning, and I'm going to figure this out, because I had no manual. How do you find this happiness? I know it's possible. I had just never had it, never felt it. And so on my journey, it's been 8 years in February that I have been single. And I'm a kind of person, like, I was married at 19, my first child at 19. Like, I don't live on my own. I don't do things on my own. I'm going to be with somebody. And so I know all the women out there I have lots of friends who feel that way. We just want to be with somebody. So it's not an easy, if you would have told me 8 years ago I would be single and not married again, I would be like, okay, no, we're not going to have that. Because in between my marriages, I think it was maybe 6 months, 9 months, I was married again. Like, I just, for whatever my personality was like, I want to be with somebody. And so just really taking those 8 years, you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know exactly how broken I was, until I went on this journey. And like I said, going on this journey, I didn't even know I was really going on a journey, other than I'm like, I need to change things. That's about the extent of it. But as you get into things and you figure things out and you have aha moments, and I did this through bodybuilding competitions. Long story short, I got into competing. And every single show I did, I pushed to such extremes that I always had a breakthrough in my personal life. My breakthrough at 50 was dealing with my dad's death. My dad died when I was 12. I watched him die. We never spoke about it the next day. And I never dealt with it. And that's 38 years later.
Wow.
So in the process of my 8 years of healing, I realized even from that's where my healing had to take place. Because when I finally went, after my show, I went to his gravesite and I sat out there and I talked to him and I cried. And there's a whole story in that. I've never had such healing as that. And I realized that by not healing, like when people say time heals all things, I disagree with that because I just kind of put it on a shelf, like he left. And a girl gets her self-confidence from her father, up to the age 13. My dad dies at 12. Not a very good time for your dad to die when you're trying to figure this whole thing, in life out. And, through all that, I was kind of going blank on what I was going to say. Except on that part, I'm trying to think what I was going to tell you. I had something I was really going to tell you. And then I kind of had a little blank moment. See, that's part of my thing. I have ADD and I'll get like thinking and going in it. But what I was going to say, what I did realize from that was I created patterns by not addressing his death. So 38 years later, I created patterns in my dating situations and my men and my different things that when anything traumatic would happen, I would immediately put it under the rug like it didn't happen. And I didn't realize I subconsciously learned that from when my dad passed, that we just subconsciously like put it under the rug like it didn't happen. So when I would be in relationships where somebody would cheat on me or do things, I would be almost immediately forgiving them. And where are we going to dinner? And let's go to a movie. And, just trying to make it like it just didn't happen. I lived my life like in a really dysfunctional way. People would look at me like, are you not there? Do you not really understand what's going on here? Because you're acting like you don't care. And I did care. So like in this 8 years time, I realized, so many things, and I found my healing with that. And what I did realize with that, and the premise coming up on my book, what I did realize with that was my entire life, I had been looking for self-love. I was looking for it in men, but at the end of the day, through my journey, I realized I didn't have self-love. So by not having self-love, I had no boundaries up. So anybody could treat me however they wanted, because when you don't first have self-love, you're not going to have boundaries. You're just going to like take however somebody treats you, right? You're just going to be like, okay, that's just how it is. That's just how, it could be worse. I could have somebody doing this to me or that to me, or, have a roof over my head. We have good money. We get to travel. I mean, you can justify it, right? And, so taking this last 8 years and really realizing self-love and the freedom and the like maximizing life, there's so much it means. It means freedom. It means freedom to be you, that authentic child that lived within you at like 10 years old, when you could I would twirl around the house and do cartwheels and sing and wear mismatched clothes. And, it was like, I didn't care. I was just me. I was just who I was. And so maximizing life is like getting yourself back to that, like, in all areas of our life, like going to that next level, being the freedom to be you, authentically you, no copycats. We all bring talents and gifts and things to this world that unfortunately most people never get to see because they never take the time to heal or to dig deep or to be okay just being you in front of people. Like, one of my biggest fears in getting into my public speaking and my book writing and that kind of thing is putting myself out there is I really do, they call it ADD. I know some of it's dyslexia, but I really will have, like I did earlier, I have a moment where I just literally blank, and it can be very terrifying when you're on stage speaking, but I've learned to roll with it. It's who I am. Okay. I don't necessarily like it. I take all the vitamins, all the things I can to try to, keep my brain going good. But I had the choice to either say, you know what, I'm never getting on a stage. I'm never talking in front of people because wonder if that happens. Or now I can just be like, you know what, I do have this. I'm sorry. I just went blank. We're going to get back on track here in a second. And I'm just me, right? I'm just learning that this is who I am. I'm not going to try to like be something in front of you. I'm not, but I'm going to continue to work on it. And I'm going to continue to work to be the best version of myself, continue to maximize my life in all areas of my life, continue to keep growing, and not let, my fears hold me back.
Well, there's so much, and I know you said at the beginning that that's a loaded question, because I did tell you to go very in depth, and I'm glad that you did, because there's so much there, and it's all powerful. And one thing that you mentioned, one is just your ability to overcome everything that you've gone through in that amount of time. So starting from 12, and like you said, married at 19, and you always assumed I'm going to have this kind of life. And I'm sure at 19, when you had that life, you were happy. You were like, wow, like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And now, these years later, the fact that you're not just kind of sulking and saying like, what happened to the life I wanted? You're just kind of taking control. And all these things that happen to you, you're allowing them to positively impact you is really
Yes.
powerful. And
Yeah.
what you, one thing that you kind of mentioned there too, is that like so many people, um, whether they don't know they're in these situations or they hold back, that's one thing. But when you learn these things over all these decades, and then you go share them through a book and through public speaking and through your coaching, that's the real impact. Like
Mhm.
you made an impact on yourself, and the fact that you're able to go out and share these things and be really kind of humble and sharing a lot of what you already shared with us now, that the unfortunate events, um,
Right.
it's very humbling and moving and powerful for other people to hear. So thank you for sharing that with us, and congrats for everything that you were able to overcome.
Yes, thank you.
Uh,
On one thing on that, I did realize I had one of my attorney friends, she said, there are no victims in life. She made me write this down. She's like, there's only
oh,
volunteers. She just said, now think about that. She's older in years, but she's like, there are no victims. They're volunteers. So we all go through things. We all could have a poor me story. We all could, but at the end of the
right.
day, if you know what you want your outcome to be, where we focus is where we go. So if we're going to continually focus on the poor me and, I didn't have that kind of start and my family never made money and I never got to travel and I don't have an education and I'm too old now. And all that just sounds like so much negative energy, right?
Yes.
Or you can change things and be like, in your positivity and, age is just a number. I'm just getting started. I am successful. I am enough. I am worthy. I'm all these things. You can just start seeing, it just lights up, right? So it's very important. And one thing that I did realize, and I love to give metaphors or how I'm going to say it, like just examples, because that's how I learn. But imagine like, every cell in our body, as you know, is energy. We're made up of energy. And so the way I like to look at it is like, I'm a fireball. Okay. So let's just say if I'm on all cylinders and they're all working, I'm a full fireball. But let's just say I decide my dad dies, so poor me. So my fireball, that piece is gone because I've closed my heart off. So now I'm only like, let's say 3/4 of a fireball. And I have unforgiveness to all these men that did me wrong. So now I'm only half of this little fireball. And I never got to go to college, so I'm never going to have the kind of money I want. So I can't travel and I can't do these things, and I'm very bitter about that. So now I'm like this much of my fireball. See, it hurts us.
Hmm.
It hurts us from going and being and really just being that entire fireball you're meant to be, maximizing your life, unleashing your inner superhero. One of my big things that I speak on is unleashing your inner superhero. And the next book's going to be coming on that, what that means and what I really mean by that. Because when you can really visualize that and think, wow, I need to let all that go so I can be this full, powerful superhero, authentically me. Everything inside of me can come out. The world can see it, my gifts, my talents, whether, I'm imperfectly me. Okay. So I have ADD, so I might mess up, so my brain might, but I'm still just going to continue to smile, be happy, do me. And this is who I am. If we could all get to that place, because I've gotten there, it's the freedom, the happiness, the peace, the joy. There's literally nothing that I could want. People are like, what could make you happier than you are right now? I'm like, I can't answer it. I've never felt this kind of freedom and joy. And so I know it's possible, but had you asked me this, like even a year ago or before that, I would say, I will bet you any amount of money, anything that is not possible without some kind of drugs or, some kind of something to just be, for one, just be in this moment and to have that peace and don't get me wrong, I have things hit me left and right. I could call you all day long with problems and you could be like, well, why are you so happy? Because it's a choice. I've chosen to keep my energy good, to keep and I can't explain it. When you can learn to live like that, it's like things just show up when they need to show up. Things just happen when they need to happen. Almost like because you're doing your part, it's not like, oh, you're so lucky, doors open for you, or opportunity opens for you. No, I'm working on me every day, bringing to this world the best version I can bring. So when I show up, when opportunity is there, then we can like connect and I'm not closing myself up. I lived a whole nother story. We could talk about another time in my book. I lived my whole life with walls up because I wasn't going to let anybody else hurt me ever again. And so I kept every good opportunity out, all the good people, I kept all the good out as well as the bad. And that was no way to live either. I wasn't attracting anything. So learning to let your walls down, maximizing your life. In my book, I literally, every chapter on its own can be read because it's the things that I learned on my own, nobody telling me, just going back and like, okay, how did I go from here to here? Like literally people want to know, well, where do you start? So that's kind of what the basis of the book is. And there's notes behind each chapter so people can take notes because your journey's not
Good.
mine.
Yeah.
I might talk on a topic and people tell me all the time, I read that topic and this is what I got from it. I'm like, I love that because I didn't even talk about that. So it just got them to think about the topic. And then it was whatever they're going through it, and they would write their own things down. I'm like, that's what the book's meant for. It's not for you to copy my journey, but for you to start thinking outside the box and like, oh, okay, maybe if I tried this, or if I did this, or I got out of my comfort zone, and just to see where your life goes.
Yeah. So I do love that. I love any personal development, self-help books, having notes at the end of each chapter, somewhere where you can document, because again, your journey is not the reader's journey. You're kind of helping them on their path. One thing that you mentioned was there are no victims, only volunteers. I absolutely love that. As you know, and as anyone listening knows, today is all about, victimhood and being a victim. And it's really, we all struggle with it. I struggle with it too. Just like things in life, outside circumstances that pin you down. Yeah. And I love and you said it with a smile on your face, but like, the world is just a happy, positive place. Nothing brings you down. Obviously there are things in your life that occur that could bring you down, but you don't let them.
Daily.
Yeah. And that's something, I mean, all of us, we all have these circumstances. And going back to like what you said, like people who have this, maybe a higher education or different life circumstances, it doesn't matter. When someone wins the lottery, when someone wins this, $1 billion Mega Millions lottery coming up, they're still going to have problems. It's just that money won't be a problem. So there will always be problems. There will always be things that arise that can pin you down. But having your positive outlook is so important, and I love that you said things just sort of happen when you're that positive.
But I said we attract who we are. Birds of a feather flock together. All the things like you'll see. I was talking to a teen the other day. Like you go to the schools and you have your little cliques of people. You have your jocks. You have your band people. You have, they call them, they're geeks or they're real smart people. You kind of tend to gravitate to who you are. And so, you just want to keep gravitating to better and better.
So, and who you are, right? So you're a life coach now, you're a public speaker, an author. Tell me how the book has helped gain you, I guess, exposure in these, getting on stages or to your business. How do all of them sort of align together to, obviously the overall goal is to help your prospective client?
So I have spoken in front of crowds before on other topics before I started my company. So this is brand new, me starting Maksymizing Life LLC.
Congratulations.
So it's brand new, and it's been about 2 years in the making. And so I keep putting things out there. So I've been a life coach. I got my life coaching with John Maxwell about 7 years ago, but I didn't actually jump into it because I had not come through. And for me personally, I need to come through things before I feel like that's just me. That's my thing. So I finally have come through about 2 years ago. I took my life coaching more serious, and I do clients through Zoom, so they can be anywhere. And so then I have my book now. So I got my book finished. So my book is a tool to get me into speaking engagements, to get me speaking places. And then when I speak places and people are like, that's really cool, I love the book, I don't know where to start, then I'll be offering places I speak, like, okay, I have a 6-week package for 6 weeks. We're going to, as a group, I can take up to 20 people, and then we'll go through 6 of the major things of change that I went through, and we're going to go through it together. to help you as a group, because you learn as a group. Some people don't really understand group coaching when you have like 20 people in, but I have found when I've done group coaching, I've done both one-on-one and group, and there's a time for and a place for both. But I find in group coaching, when you learn so much because people speak up, oh my gosh, I'm going through this. And then the next person's hearing it and they're going through that, but yet now they're getting encouraged because they're hearing the same part, so it's a group effort. And so that's my heart. That's my goal. Maximizing life. I want it to be a movement. My main thing is unleash your inner superhero. I have someone right now designing all my logos on that. So I'm going to be making t-shirts and just thinking, just think in your life, your mentally, your emotionally, your financially, your spiritually, your relationships, all the areas of our life. If you just work on one of them, if you just go to the gym every day and that's the only thing you do, if you're like a wheel, you're off balance. So just trying to help people to understand, if you can think about all areas of your life and just every day, just be a little mindful to be doing something each day. If you do that for 365 days for the year and you're mindful, life is going to look completely different next year than this year, just by, some people just don't think about it, but you don't know, or what's on the front burner, you don't think about. So I'm just trying to help people to realize, life can be better, but you're in charge of, you're in charge.
There are no victims, only volunteers, right?
You are the one. There's nobody, I always wanted somebody to come and save me and fix it. And, I'm almost 52. That's never happened. So I've realized that you have to get out and go create your life. You have to get out and go do, and you have to get out and be the change. And it's not easy, but it's so worth it.
So exactly what you just said there, that you have to be the one that goes out and creates. It's not easy. So I want to transfer that into the writing of your book, because writing a book is not easy. Drafting it, and especially that level of so for you, you're on the cover of the book. Your name is on the cover, but your picture is also on the cover. So this is everything about you. Right. It's very, very hard for a lot of nonfiction authors, for coaches, to put their name, their image, their stories out like that into the world. So for anyone listening who may be an aspiring coach, or maybe they want to write a memoir, something that has to do with very personal stories, what would your advice be to them for putting together the stories, creating them, like you said, and pushing through that fear to get it out there in front of the world?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you have to do what's right for you. So how do I want to say that? So when you're writing the book, I literally probably wrote my book 3 times through before I did it. Like, it was the first time I started writing it, I'm writing everything that happened to me. I'm playing victim. I'm writing, people are just, they're just going to resonate and they're going to be like, yeah, poor you. But it was healing. I needed to write it, right? So I needed to, but then I'm like, okay, I'm not putting this in my book. Like this might be, maybe I'll speak on some of these things when I'm speaking places, but this isn't for my book. And then I went down a different route, because I'm like, well, maybe I could do it more like into my workouts and kind of correlate it through working out and that just didn't seem authentic. It could have worked, but you have to be authentic. People can read it. People know if you're trying to copy or be somebody else, or there's so many great positive people out there I watch and I listen to, and I love Mel Robbins and so many people that I listen to in their books, and it's like, but it's because they're so authentically them. Brene Brown, I have to be me. This is me. This is who I am. This is how I talk. This is my look. This is, at first, my cover of my book, like you mentioned, that was a show that I competed at, and I had that dress on for a photo shoot afterwards. And part of me was very reluctant to put that photo on there, because I can get a lot of flack for that photo. Let's be real. Some women would be like, oh, who does she think she is? Or, oh, I don't want my husband. There's a lot that I've gotten feedback on. But at the end of the day, I was in 2 marriages for almost 25 years. My first marriage, I was told every day how ugly I was, and how they pinched my fat and tell me that I wasn't smart and that I could never make it. I could never be on my own. And for literally 25 years, everything in my world was based on my looks, and I was never enough. And And then when I dated someone who I really cared for, I was never enough. If you were shorter, if you had brown eyes, if you were this, if you were that, then I would want to be with you. So I literally had 25 years of pouring into me how I was not enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't this, I wasn't that. And so getting to a place in life where I'm writing my book and I finally have freedom to dress how I want, be in a photo shoot, transform my body. Of course, I'm going to put my photo on there and be proud of my book. And that means so much more than just the photo. Like, people don't have any idea. I never smiled, ever smiled. I would have never gotten on a stage and competed. So it just means so much more. So it's authentic to me. Like, this is my story. My next books probably will just have maybe a picture of me, but pretty more conservative. But for this book, for my first book out there, it was like, this book was for me. I wrote this book and it was super authentic to me. And in writing the book, so we'll get back to writing the book, I had originally had all these stories I wanted to write in my book. And for some reason, when I went back and read it, because I rewrote it many times, they're not all in there. And I'm like, maybe that was for a reason, because I really wanted my book to be more like, hey, yes, bad things have happened, but this is how I got myself out of the hole. Because do you want to sit here and hear all the poor me stories, or do you want me to tell you what I did to help you get out of the hole? So this whole book was more premised on the positive of it. And, I know I'll write other books and other things, and I'll probably share a little more of things there. But from this book, I just had to really keep listening to my heart. When you're saying, how do you know how to write and not do? I got more off track when I kept asking people, what do you think? Do you think I should write this? Do you think I should share? I got so off track, and because someone would tell me this answer, and then someone would tell me the complete opposite, and then someone would tell me the reason, and I'm finally like, going, okay, time out. Like, if you're going to write and you're going to do, you really do, just because at the end of the day, it's going to go out there. So you have to be completely like at peace with what you shared and what you put out there, because what's right for you isn't right for me. Like, what people are like, well, if you would have written some more of your stories in there, you probably, would have resonated with more. And I'm like, I'm not saying in time I won't. I mean, I'm still on my journey of healing in certain things. So there's certain things that are still a little hard to share and talk about. So for today, this was my first book. And this book also for me is a big accomplishment, because like in high school, I literally passed high school with D- in reading, writing, and comprehension. And so I hired a company, gave them $8,000 to help me with editing the book, making sure the structure's correctly, the sentence structure's correctly, making sure it's laid out correctly. And long story short, they were out of the country and it was a scam. And so I lost my money. And so I either had to say, poor me, I was going to write a book, it didn't happen, play victim, not doing it, or say, you know what, I have no more money to put in this. So guess what that means? I'm doing it all myself. I'm designing the book cover, I'm writing it, I'm publishing it, I'm editing it. I got an editing program software, and I put it through several times, and there's still like 6 errors in here, which frustrates me, but people they all have some errors, but I do want to go back and fix it. Like a punctuation error, whatever. But I could have said, forget it. I lost my money, all these things. But no, when life happens, I teach my kids too, there's always a plan B, C, D, E, F, G. Like, you're going to keep going until we figure it out. If that's what you truly want, you don't quit.
Right.
And so this book just means so much to me. So if you really want to write a book, you don't let the obstacles are going to come, and you're going to have more obstacles than you even thought going into it. You just have to keep, when the roadblocks come and the detours come, you have to take a time out and figure out the best way to navigate. But yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And writing a book is a long journey too. So there are many roadblocks that come up.
2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a long time. It took you 2 years, and I'm sure that there was so much more, because some of the things that you were saying, so unfortunate, but it's really incredible that you, after 25 years and the marriages that you were in and the way that you were treated, to be honest, like so many people hit midlife and they think, well, this is it, like I'm done. And maybe they resort to drugs or alcohol or just deep depression in any other way. And you just overcame it all. So absolutely incredible. Love your story. Excited to read some of what's in your book, because obviously it would be very transformative and insightful.
And I also did, I don't want to cut you off, but I also did an Audible, and it just waiting
Good.
for it to, but I've already, I read it. And so when I'm reading it, it's more of my, and it's already with Audible, and it's been in Audible books for them to review it now. So it's like any day it'll be up. It's not up yet. I'm waiting for me to go in there and see, okay, it's on Audible. So it is definitely coming. And I went into a high-end studio with someone who's done like 500 books. And so I'm super
Good.
excited to have that out there as well.
Good. Well, congrats. And I'm sure that that's how you found some of your spelling errors when you were reading through.
It
And
was when I had to go read it, I'm like, oh,
Yep.
okay. I don't remember, like, I mean, because I went over that thing with my software like so many times. I'm like, how does this happen? And
Right.
the guy that was there doing it, he has all these books laid out, and he was opening all these books, showing me all the errors, and they have publishers. He's like, it's okay. I'm like,
Yep.
I know, but I want it to be like so right.
I know. We're all like that. So this book right behind me went through, I get 5 different sets of fresh eyes. And when
Yeah.
I was doing the Audible version a few months back, there were still 2 or 3 things. So it's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. But you have your book out there, and the benefit of publishing on your own, of self-publishing, is that when you find these errors, all you need to do is fix them and upload a new file, because you're
Yes.
print on demand. So it's not like a traditional, publisher where 10,000 copies are printed and, oh, well, we're going to sell them anyway. So
yeah, and that is coming. So I have a few people going through it now for me, because when I read it, I wish I would have taken all the little notes. So I want to make sure I have everybody, like all of it, and then do it all at once. So then I don't have to be like, oh, I forgot that one too.
yeah, because that's very frustrating when you
Yes.
are happy to upload your file and then you see a new one again. But yeah, so Valerie, where can people find more about you? Obviously, your book, and then where they can work with you.
So everything I've done, I've tried to pretty much keep as Maksymizing Life. So my website is maksimizinglife.com. And then on Instagram, it's Maksymizing Life, Facebook, Maksymizing Life, and then I just started TikTok, but that still has more of my fitness stuff, but it's Maksymizing Life.
Good.
So
Excellent. Yes. And I'll put the all those, and then the spelling, of course, inside of the description for anyone watching or listening, so that you can easily find those and find how you can connect with Valerie. Valerie, thank you again for being here, for being such an open book, and for sharing everything that you've gone through. Really excited for me and anyone listening to read your book, hear more about you, and read your next book that you're working on now.
Thank you. The next one won't take me as long. I'm projecting 3 to 6 months, because once you do your first one, you kind of figure it out. I feel like.
Yes. Interesting. Well, good. We're excited to hear when the new one comes out in 3 to 6 months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.